Hello, hello. Welcome to our Thursday evening session. I'm Robin Smith, the founder of the Healthy Relationship Sisterhood, and we are talking tonight about vulnerability and intimacy. So how to be vulnerable, how to open to vulnerability and intimacy, to create intimacy and foster intimacy, and especially when you've had childhood trauma. So say hello if you are here. Let me know where you're listening from. I look forward to chatting with you. And if you are watching the replay, you can put hashtag replay and definitely put in your questions and comments so I can respond. So this topic came from a request, so I'm happy to honor that and love when you put in your requests so I can meet your needs as best as I can. So thank you for that. And childhood trauma. It's such a broad topic, really. So there's so many types of childhood trauma and they can affect us in different ways. So when we're scared of vulnerability, it makes total sense. Well, most people are. I mean, for one, I think part of the definition of vulnerability includes fear. So just to say that vulnerability is really about feeling afraid of being hurt when you expose yourself emotionally or physically, when you expose your heart, when you expose your life experience, when you expose who you are. So there's a fear of getting hurt or harmed in some way, and that's what vulnerability is about. So of course, when you feel safe and comfortable with yourself in your exposure with people that you feel safe with, you're probably less likely to feel that kind of fear and vulnerability. For example, in my long-term relationship with my husband, Patrick, this is our 20th year together, and I feel so safe in sharing pretty much anything. And so I don't sense that vulnerability. I don't have that fear of something bad could happen if I share. So I wanted to kind of put that out there for what it could look like. And when you feel the vulnerability and you do it anyway, then that takes courage, right? Because you have to gather the courage to get over the fear to express or expose yourself. So hopefully that's making sense, and let me know if you have comments or questions on that, and I'm going to pop in and see if there's anything. Okay. Okay, so different kinds of childhood trauma affect us in different ways, and in some types of trauma, if you were violated, if you were mistreated in some way, if you were judged and ridiculed, belittled, then you are probably going to have these types of fears that around expressing yourself because you got harmed by when you did, right? Or if you were punished for being authentic, for sharing your true feelings and experiences, then that would also contribute to a fear of being authentic, and vulnerability is an authenticity, right? So it would make total sense. So part of what I'd like to do tonight with you is normalize vulnerability, to normalize the fear of being vulnerable. Because everybody has it. We all have some type of childhood trauma. I really don't believe that anyone escapes childhood without something that is somewhat traumatic happening, whether it could have been prevented or not. And so the main takeaway is that if you have a lot of fear about exposing yourself because you, and I don't mean sexually, but it could be that too, or emotionally, then what I want to suggest for you is several things. And so I'm going to walk you through some suggestions about how to handle that, how to go in a way that hopefully will work for you, that will help you with safety. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about why we might want to express our vulnerability, what the benefits are to that, and then how to proceed with it. So as you may have guessed, and we've talked about before, that I'm a really big proponent of expressing our truth, our authenticity, because I think it helps us to create deeper intimacy and connection. So it's pretty hard to have intimacy without it, without openness, without a willingness to express your truth, your authentic self. Otherwise, without that, you're more on the surface in your relationships, right? You may have a lot of niceties, you may get along, you may have fun, but you don't have depth. So if you want depth, which is part of what's included in intimacy, then you need to have that courage to open yourself, to be vulnerable, to be known. And I think ultimately we all do want that. We all want to be known and seen and understood. It's part of being human. We're social beings and we want connection. And yet, sometimes things get in the way, like these traumas and the fears that come from them. They prevent us from being willing to open ourselves to connection. And part of what we do instead is we withdraw because connection feels terrifying. We might be terrified of being hurt, whether physically or emotionally. And so if that's you, if you feel a lot of terror or so much fear that you shut down or withdraw from intimacy, then please know that you're not alone. And please know that there's a reason for it, that there's nothing inherently wrong with you. It happened for a reason. Your need to withdraw, your fear. So that's like a good step one, is to normalize that, and also to be gentle and kind towards yourself around having a lot of fear, around opening yourself up. But it is a great goal to have, to move through the fears and to work with whatever's in the way of your willingness to open, because the rewards can be bountiful, right? There's nothing like really having an intimate relationship where you feel safe, where you feel held, where you feel known and supported, where you know someone has your back and they are for you. They want you to be happy and to succeed. And they also are equally or mutually open with you. There's such a sweet depth that's possible there. And so I, from my heart, want that for everybody here. And I'm incredibly grateful that I feel like I have created that for myself, not only in my close relationship with Patrick, my romantic relationship, but with my family members and with my friends. So I feel incredibly fortunate, and it's come with practice and with time, because for me, I was super scared. So I want to talk about the fears first that are common, not just mine, but that most of us have around being vulnerable, being open. And then we'll look at how to navigate those in order to move forward towards intimacy. So, and if you're watching either now or in the replay, go ahead and put what some of your fears might be about expressing your truth. I want to make sure that, okay, good, that I'm not doing a screen share anymore. So it looks like we're good on that. I'm just going to come into the group first to see if there's any comments or questions so I don't miss those. So if you're watching, yeah, let me know what is a top fear that you have about expressing your truth, being open and vulnerable with people. And I am scrolling, and of course now I'm not going to find it. All right, so my apologies for this delay. Let me see if I can. Okay, I'm not finding it now, but I'm going to use my phone because I don't want to miss interacting with you if you're there. All right, there we go. Okay, great. All right, so my apologies for that pause. So let's talk about some of the fears. I'd say number one fear is some kind of rejection. So you're afraid that you express yourself, you let someone know how you feel, what you're thinking, and they judge you, or they ridicule you, or they criticize you, or they somehow push you away, make you feel bad about yourself. Maybe they, rejection is basically a type of abandonment, or it's the same thing. I think of them really pretty much the same thing. So you feel abandoned, maybe. So there's a fear of losing a connection. The intention to open would be to create a connection, right? To let yourself be seen, to create a bond, to create depth and intimacy. And yet the fear might be it backfires, and you actually get the opposite. You don't get what you want, and you get the opposite, which is you get hurt. And so that's super scary. And so, put a yes in the comment if that is so familiar for you and that has held you back from opening yourself up to vulnerability, whether with an intimate partner or a friend or a family member. And again, if that's true for you, let's normalize that, and let's also recognize that there may be a source of that, because that did happen for you. You were ridiculed. I remember I was teased on the schoolyard. It was so painful, and I felt like people didn't like me. I felt like I was getting ostracized. So I developed a lot of insecurity and low self-esteem because of that, and probably other things as well. But that's what I recall. And so it would be totally understandable if I was then scared to share myself. And I bet a lot of you have some kind of similar experience to that. So those are like the various versions of fear that I think of. Yeah. So let me know if you have anything different to add there. My basic idea around vulnerability is that we have to feel safe and trusting in order to open. At least for most people, we have to feel that. Some people are just, totally open and sharing themselves with anybody and everybody. And there's maybe something a little bit misaligned about that, because it's not reciprocated, or it doesn't actually create depth. It just creates this kind of flood of information, and there's no reciprocation and support around it. So ultimately, when we're sharing ourselves, we want to do it with people or a person who is available, like wants to hear it, and is so they're present with us, and there's someone that we trust, right? That we have a sense of trust in the relationship, that we won't get hurt. That would be ideal, that you wait until you feel that kind of safety and trust in order to share. Now, the flip side can also be true, that the more you do share, again, with people at least you have some sense of safety with, it can help to build more trust and safety. So it can go both ways, but I wouldn't encourage you to just open yourself to anybody, especially anyone that you feel you haven't built a foundation of trust with, some sort of trust. So the thing about trust is it has to be developed, and it takes time to develop trust. You don't just trust a stranger, right? You have no reason to trust somebody you don't know. So we need to spend time with people in order to get a sense that they're safe and that they're worthy of our trust. And then from that place, we have a sense that they're worthy of holding us in our vulnerability. So take that in. That is some of the building blocks for being able or willing, or feeling safe enough to open yourself, I think, for most people. So I'm just reading my notes here. Yeah. Some people may have a sense of trust, but they feel scared or insecure anyway. And that, again, can be based in early trauma and bad things happening, or a low sense of self-esteem and self-worth, not feeling good enough, and having a lot of maybe paranoia or maybe founded fears in, rejection again. And so even with trust, it still is going to take some courage for a lot of people to take the next step towards opening and being vulnerable. So I wanted to say, I wrote something down, I'm just going to read that. So when you're open and vulnerable, you build connection, bonds, and intimacy. We talked about this before. You can't build the intimacy that you might want without that, right? Without your openness and vulnerability. So coming back to, if you want depth and intimacy, you have to be willing to take the chance to open yourself and show who you are. So let's talk about how to do that now and some ways to do that in a way that that might feel safer and honoring of your fear. So again, I want to say what I said before is to start with trust and safety, okay? And then to normalize that fear is normal. And we all have it, and especially around sharing ourselves. So normalizing it, because if you don't normalize it, then what you're doing in a way is judging yourself, right? You're telling yourself, I shouldn't be scared, and there's something wrong with me if I am. So the more you can just put that aside and say, it's normal that I'm scared. It's normal that I'm scared of rejection or ridicule or someone abandoning me, then then you take some of the pressure off. So removing the judgment, removing the pressure, and opening to the truth of the fear, and just getting on board with fear is normal and it's okay. So then adding loving kindness towards yourself for having the fear, but also compassion. Compassion, which is basically says, I understand your suffering. That's what compassion is about, is like wanting someone or yourself to be free of suffering, and also sensing that there is suffering and wishing it could go away. So when you have compassion for yourself, for this difficult experience of being scared, that's also going to soften it and take some pressure off of, I should do this and I should do it right, and all that can just amplify the fear. So taking the pressure off, and also sort of side by side with pressure, hand in hand, is this idea or these expectations that you might have of yourself to do it perfectly, to do it right, to get a certain outcome. So any kinds of pressure around and expectations around how it's supposed to turn out also is going to amplify the anxiety and fear about your opening to vulnerability. So the more you can just put that aside, and it's okay if I don't do it perfectly, and everyone messes up, and I don't have to be perfect, and I don't have to do it right, then the more relaxed you're going to feel, and the more accepting you're going to be of yourself for however you do it. So that's really important too. And then also letting go of the expectations of how others are going to respond. And that's huge, because of course we have ideas for how we want it to go and the outcome that we'd like, maybe the connection or the understanding or whatever it is we're hoping for from sharing ourselves. And we have absolutely no control over that. We have no control over how someone is going to respond. And that's hard, but we just don't. So the more we can let go of that, of this idea of how it's supposed to go, and this expectation and this idea that we can control it, the more, again, we take the pressure off, and the more ease we can experience, and the less anxiety. So when we add pressure, anxiety will likely follow. Take the pressure and the expectations away, you're more likely to be at ease, more likely. The other things I would say are baby steps. Like I talked about, building trust takes time. So take your time with opening to yourself, to share yourself, to create intimacy. It's not just a big dump of your emotions and now we're connected, right? It's baby steps, little toe in the water, test the water, see how it feels to share a little bit of yourself. How do you respond to that? How does the other person respond? If that goes well for you and it feels okay and nothing horrible happens, then you build a little bit of trust and you go, okay, I survived. So maybe next time I can do a little bit more. And then you take it to the next level and you test that out, not too much, just a little bit, baby steps, and see how did that person respond? How did I respond? Am I okay with myself? Nothing bad happened. Okay, then maybe next time a little bit more. So that's what I would recommend, is to go slowly, is to pace yourself with your own pace, not anyone else's pace, not any expectations of how it should be, but just really tuning in to how it's going moment by moment. So pacing yourself, not rushing yourself, giving yourself plenty of time, however long it takes, because we all have different timelines for how long it takes to feel trusting, how long it takes to feel safe. And some of this is going to be based, a lot of this is going to be based in your early trauma and how much distrust you developed based on what happened to you early in life. So if you're working on building trust and safety, be spacious and know that it may take time and that you may feel impatient with yourself or other people may feel impatient with you, but it's not something you can rush. You just can't like force trust, right? It has to come naturally from the inside. So let me know if you have comments or questions about that, and I'm happy to answer. And if you are posting and I'm not seeing that, I'm really sorry. I'm doing my best here with the technology, and sometimes it doesn't show me everything. So we'll just go for a little bit longer. I'm looking into my notes again. Yeah. I may have said everything I wanted to say. Yeah. Okay. So there's one more thing. And that is when you're super anxious and nervous about, you want to share, like I have a women's group, right? And we meet online and it can be intimidating, which is another word for scary, to open up to people you don't know and they're across the world from you or wherever it is. And so sometimes people get really nervous or they wait to the end because they're really scared or they cry because it's really intense. And I get it. I've been there and I know what that's like. And I have that experience myself sometimes. So again, to normalize it, and that's our nervous system reaction. That's our body, telling us we're scared and we don't feel safe. And so we may get some adrenaline in the system. We may get that racing heart, maybe shallow breathing. So there are some things you can do, which I've taught here before, just really simple physical moves that you can do to help your nervous system calm down, to make it easier to take that next step towards exposing yourself emotionally or however, exposing your thoughts, your feelings, your sexuality, whatever it is. So here's a few things you can do just for now, and know that I have trainings on this sometimes, and in my group we go a lot deeper with how to support your nervous system and work with your fear. But a few things you can do are get connected to your body. So if you're sitting on the chair, you might separate your feet and really like plug your hips down into the seat and really feel that you're here on the chair. You may put your hands on your legs and squeeze your legs a little bit to say, okay, I have a body, and just kind of bring your energy down into your body. And as I do that right now, I notice my breath deepens and I feel more present. And so it's a way of bringing your attention, instead of all out, is coming back in and down. And then another thing you can do is actually take some deeper breaths. So you might just, on purpose, take some conscious deep breaths. And especially when we lengthen the exhale, that can very much help the nervous system to calm down. So a few long exhales. Can really be helpful. to help you get present and slow down and feel more calm and connected to yourself. And then one more thing you could do is just another kind of self-touch would be like just squeeze your hands. So squeezing the hands or interlacing and feeling the muscles, the bones in your hands. And as you do that, really paying attention. You don't have to let anyone see. You could do it under the table if there's a table in front of you, or behind your back, or if you want to be discreet. But again, getting it grounded into your body, feeling your body is going to help you get more present and then be more able to share in the way that you want to. So there are some tips. We've covered a lot of ground and we're going to finish up in a moment, but just a quick review that why you might want to practice vulnerability, which is like the courage to move through the fear, to share when you feel like it could be scary, to get hurt. You might get hurt if you open yourself. That's our vulnerability. But the purpose of it would be to create connection and depth and intimacy, to be known, to share yourself with somebody. And so what might be in the way is childhood traumas can create a lot of mistrust and fear, a lack of safety that may cause us to hold back, that may cause us to avoid intimacy, that may cause us to shut down. And so through working with a professional, you can get some help around that stuff. And also some of the things I'm sharing with you here may help you move through that. However, we can just talk about the basic fears, which I've shared. So I'm just summarizing basic fears that could be in the way are fear of rejection, judgment, abandonment, ridicule, being hurt. So all those might be in the way. And then how to work with those fears are, like I just said, working with your body so you can calm your system, are normalizing it so you're not putting all this pressure on yourself to be perfect or to be open faster than you're ready, to give yourself plenty of time and space to open at your own pace, to take the expectations out of how it should happen, when it should happen, to take the expectations off of how other people should respond, and to be compassionate and loving and kind with yourself around your process. So I hope you find that helpful. I'm going to come back into the group just to see if there's been any other responses here. Not seeing anything right now, so that's fine. I hope that if you're watching the replay, you will let me know that you're watching and say hello, and feel free to ask a question or share a comment and let me know if it's been helpful today. Thanks so much for being here, and I send you so much love and support on your journey into opening to intimacy. Bye for now.